everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Parks and Recreation Commission, Wednesday, June 26, 2024. May I have a roll call, please?
Chair Feck,
Here.
Vice Chair McGill,
Here.
Commissioner Aldana,
Present.
Commissioner Chang,
Present.
Commissioner Clark, Commissioner Lesner-Buxton,
You.
Commissioner Unander LaBerge.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to changes in the agenda. There's one change in the agenda today. We're going to do the golf interview before we get into the street trees. Was there any other changes that I need to be aware of?
No, Chair Feck.
Okay, awesome. And then we can move on to written public comment. I don't have any actual speaker slips for written comment.
Public comment.
Public comment, yeah. So we can go into public comment. Any member of the public may address the commission for up to 2 minutes on any subject within the jurisdiction of the commission that is not scheduled for public discussion before the commission. The total amount of time for public comment will be 15 minutes. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak on public comment? Okay. Is there anybody online?
No, Chair Feck, there's not.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we can move on to Commissioner Committee Assignments reports. I'll start from my left. We'll start with Commissioner Aldana.
None this month.
Commissioner Chang?
There's nothing to report.
Okay. Vice Chair McGill?
The Park Foundation did not meet this month. I did go to the Douglas Family Preserve Community Meeting back earlier in the month, which was very well attended. I would say a lively, constructive conversation. The one thing I really would like to take the opportunity to commend both you, Jasmine, and Monique, and everybody else that was involved. It just struck me as being incredibly well planned and executed, and I think, it bore fruit in the kind of discussion that you all had. So, thank you. It was a good meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lesner-Buxton?
Nothing to report.
Okay, thank you. And then for my report, this will be my last commission meeting. I'll be on maternity leave starting next month. So, been with the Parks and Recreation Commission 4 years now, so time has gone by really fast, but I've enjoyed my time with everybody and being a part of this. So, thanks to all my fellow commissioners and the Parks and Recreation staff. It's been great. Vice Chair McGill.
Yeah, her thing's not coming up with the request to speak. Anyways, I was going to save this to the end, but since you did it in the beginning, I just want to say how much I've enjoyed working with you and wish you all the best. I know you're leaving for all the right reasons, but we will still miss you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right. Commission and staff communications. Are there any service awards or ceremonial items?
Yes, Chair Feck and Commissioners, there are 2 employees who've received service award pins. The first is Vincent Savlich, who received a 5-year service pin this past month. Vincent joined our team in 2019 as a recreation coordinator in the youth activities program area in recreation, in our recreation division, and last year was promoted to recreation supervisor in that same program area, youth activities. Vincent has been a great resource for our department. The youth activities program area is responsible for a very wide array of youth programming that the community has cherished for many years, including summer camps, summer fun and nature camp, skate camp, and the recreation after school program, which runs during the school year at 4 of our local public schools. So thank you, Vincent. And the second service pin is for Justin Van Mullum with 10 years of service in our department. So Justin Van Mullum joined our team as a licensed architect. He's been in the capital projects team for 10 years, starting as an assistant planner and then promoting into the project planner position. And now, since 2021, he's been in the capital project supervisor position. So Justin has, because of the work that he does in capital projects, has really made a big impact on our entire community. Some of the notable projects that he's worked on are the renovation of the Cabrillo Pavilion. He's currently working on the renovation of the Plaza del Mar Bandshell and Dwight Murphy Field, among many other things. So he's brings a wealth of resources, and we're lucky to have him.
Okay, awesome. Well, congratulations to Vincent and Justin. Thank you so much for your service. Was there any comments or anything from other commissioners? Okay. We will go on to, we've all received a summary of council actions, and that was for information purposes only. And then for action, we have a recommendation that the commission waive the reading and approve the minutes from our regular meeting on May 22nd, 2024, and waive the reading and approve the minutes of the special meeting on May 22nd, 2024. Any discussion or a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve both the regular meeting minutes and the special meeting minutes.
Second.
Okay. May I have a vote, please? All right, awesome. So now we will go to our golf interview. Let me pull that up. So we have one vacancy in the category of community at large, and the applicant is Sherry Dean. So Sherry, if you'd like to come forward, please do. So there'll be a clock that starts, and then you can say whatever you'd like to say.
Okay, I have some prepared remarks for just several minutes.
Okay, awesome, sounds good.
Okay, well, I am Sherry Schaefer. Dean. Members of the Parks and Rec Commission, thank you for this opportunity to share some of my background in consideration of a community at large position on the Golf Advisory Committee. I love golf. Since retiring and moving to Santa Barbara, I've spent the past 6 years playing our local courses 3 to 4 times a week. I also spend many additional hours organizing and working with our women's golf clubs in various capacities. I play with members of our women's clubs, the general public, and I'm fortunate to be an occasional guest at a number of Santa Barbara's private courses. Collectively, I experience golf in our community through the eyes of many diverse players. Prior to throwing myself so thoroughly into the sport, I had a 36-year career with a public agency in Southern California. The bulk of that career included contract administration and property management. However, the final 5+ years were spent managing public recreation through contracts with private concessionaires. As a former project manager for the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California, I bring experience and a healthy appreciation for the challenges of balancing the management of public resources with the public's desire for access and enjoyment. In my career, the public resource was land and drinking water, and the recreation was boating, fishing, and hiking. I value all that golf brings to our community: the recreation, the social aspects, the appeal to all ages and genders, and our municipal course is a place for residents and visitors alike to enjoy the natural beauty of our city. In light of rezoning and rumored renovations to other local courses, I believe this is a particularly relevant time to be involved in promoting and managing the health of our municipal course. I'd like to contribute to this effort and hope that the combination of my love of the sport and experience with management administration would make me a viable candidate. Thank you for considering me.
Thank you very much. Okay, are there any questions or comments? Okay. Try. Okay, Vice Chair McGill.
I don't have any questions. It's pretty straightforward. 3 to 4 times a week, you obviously are a better player than I ever managed to become.
The game welcomes all.
So yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun, but I certainly am prepared to make a motion to, I'm not even sure what the right language is appoint Ms. Dean. I got confused here for a
I
second.
messed you up in the beginning and used my maiden name.
The Golf Advisory Committee.
Any discussion? I'll second that. May we have a vote, please? Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome to the
Thank
Golf
you very
Commission. Thank you for your time. All right, so now we can go to the trees.
Good afternoon, Chair Fack and Commissioners. The first Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is the request to remove a Mexican fan palm. This is located within the front setback of the property at 628 Willow Glen Road. The applicant was requesting removal of this tree due to comprehensive landscape improvements in the front yard, issues with frond drop, and just not a lot of value to the tree despite its age and size. The committee discussed the tree, noted it was well-maintained, in good health, consistent with lots of other individual palm applications that we've reviewed over the last several years. There was discussion on the merits that the tree provided to the property as well as the local neighborhood in terms of just total benefits. And there was consensus amongst the committee that, you know, despite the tree being reasonably healthy, that a shade tree would be a more favorable option for not just the parcel, but the property or the neighborhood as a whole. After review, they made a recommendation to approve the removal of the Mexican fan palm on the condition that a new canopy tree be planted that can achieve a mature height at 25 feet, and recommended that the commission could make the determination that the neighborhood would not be materially affected by the tree's removal.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? Okay. Well, I do have a speaker slip, so if Scott Burns, if you want to come forward, please. Hello. You'll have 2 minutes. There's a timer right in front of the microphones, and she'll start it for you when you're ready, okay?
I'll I'll try to make it less than 2 minutes. Thank you very much for the work you guys are doing. I appreciate that you guys decided to let us remove the palm tree. I felt that it was just as important to come here to thank you guys than to complain. So I'm just thanking you for the work in the Street Tree Advisory Committee. On a side note, about 12 years ago, I also resigned from the Park and Rec Commission, not for something as exciting as what you were doing, but rather I had a kidney transplant. Not in process, but I had kidney failure, and I really couldn't stay anywhere for 2 hours doing that. So again, thank you guys very much for the work you do, and we appreciate it. I'm not sure what exactly tree will actually end up there yet, but it took us 6 months to decide we didn't want that tree, so it'll happen. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, thank you very much. That's very encouraging. We appreciate you showing up. Okay, awesome. Unless there's any other questions or comments, if someone wants to prepare to make a motion, we can. Commissioner Chang?
I'll move to conditionally approve the setback tree removal of the Mexican fan palm on 628 Willow Glen Road under the finding that, under the condition that the applicant plant a new canopy tree capable of reaching a height of 25 feet at maturity, under the finding that the character of the immediate neighborhood would not be materially affected.
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, can we please have a vote? Okay, so it's approved, and we can go to the next one. Thank you.
Chair Feck and Commissioners, the next item for review is the request to remove a Brazilian pepper. This is located within the front setback of the property at 2501 Medcliff Road. You may recall that back in April, we initially reviewed this application. The applicant was pursuing removal due to comprehensive improvements on the property, both full redevelopment of the structure as well as landscape improvements. At the time, the applicant expressed an interest in replacing the tree. At the time of the site visit with the Street Tree Advisory Committee, this was one of the only trees that was near the front of the property, despite some oaks being preserved towards the back of what is a very large parcel. During the discussion, the committee determined that the tree provided a lot of value, especially to like the streetscape, given the vast openness of the parcel in its current state. During the commission meeting, the applicant spoke and shared some additional details about the extensive nature of the planned landscape improvements, which involved a significant number of native trees being planted. At the request of the commission, you sent it back to the Street Tree Advisory Committee for further review with the landscape plan being taken into consideration. The committee reviewed the landscape plan, talked about the tree, looked at the replacement plantings that were planned, most of them being native. I think in similar respects to some of the previous reviews that we've had, there was consensus that with the significant replants, there was not going to be a significant loss to the property or the neighborhood, given the number of native trees planted. After review, the committee made a recommendation to approve the removal on the condition that the applicant plant a new tree that could achieve a mature height at 30 feet at maturity. And then additionally commented, wasn't part of the condition, that it would be great if the applicant chose to plant a native tree just to complement the rest of the native trees that were chosen for replacements, and made a determination that the neighborhood would not be materially impacted by the removal with respect to forestation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay. Is there anybody online that wishes to speak? I don't have a speaker slip.
Oh, there.
There's no one online?
Okay, Vice Chair McGill?
I hit the wrong button. No, I don't really have a question. I just wanted to comment that I was really pleased with the way the process worked here, in terms of the commission really looking at it thoughtfully, and the applicant being thoughtful in how they presented the application, and the Street Tree Committee going back and taking, honestly taking another look. So with that, of course, I am prepared to make a motion, but I don't want to jump the gun on it. But I was just glad to see the way this all transpired and how it worked. It kind of felt like everybody was doing their job. So that's all. That's my only comment.
Okay, sounds good. Anyone else? Otherwise, we can jump into a motion.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make
Okay.
the motion to concur with the Street Tree Committee with a condition that the applicant plant a tree reaching the height of 30 feet at maturity.
And the finding being whatever C is.
Yeah. I don't have that in front of me. That the character of the immediate neighborhood with respect of the forestation would not be materially affected by the proposed removal.
Okay, I'll second that.
All right.
May we have a vote, please? All right, that one's approved.
Okay.
And Chair Fack and Commissioners, the next Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is a request to remove one Italian stone pine located within the front setback of the property at 504 Owen Road. The applicant was requesting removal of this specific tree essentially just due to safety concerns. They stated during winter months, previously during the rainy season, that there was a neighboring stone pine on the slope that was in close proximity to this one that failed due to saturated soils and weight of the canopy. It was removed. If you were able to make a site visit, the stump was still visible on the upper portion of the slope. The committee reviewed the tree. It's in fair shape. it's pretty funky. If you were able to make a site visit, we would use the term like suppressed, where the canopies were in competition. The tree that failed was much larger, so it was really restricting the growth of the tree. So now with the previous tree being removed, you just have canopy weight on one side, and that's also in the plane of the lean as well. The discussion kind of revolved around that, just the weight and the lean, the slope and the potential for the same result of the potential failure with saturated soils given the tree's condition. There was discussion with the stone pine. There's not a lot of, the growth response is much different than we would see in a broadleaf tree, so you wouldn't expect the canopy to kind of reform and fill in over time as you might with a shade tree. That was also taken into consideration during discussion. After review, the committee made a recommendation to approve the removal of the stone pine on the condition that a new tree be planted that could achieve mature height of 30 feet, and determined the committee could make, or the commission could make the findings that good principles of good forest management support the proposed removal.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments about this one? Vice Chair McGill?
That's a pretty steep slope. So where would the 30-foot tree go that wouldn't have issues of its own right with, establishment, and would it have to be in the setback?
Chair Fett, Commissioner McGill, it was not defined as part of the condition, so I don't think that we would have to hold them to that. I think we had gone back and done Google Street View of the stone pine that did fail, and it had grown quite oddly, out towards the driveway as well. So I think you could certainly plant a tree mid-slope, and with proper pruning could train it to develop into a functional tree, and the root system should self-optimize to deal with that. I mean, it's a legitimate concern, but with a mature height of 30 feet, you have a lot of flexibility in species selection too. Just a tree that can get to 30 feet can be a very slow growing, pretty small tree really over, a few decades time.
Commissioner Chang?
So, given all these kind of conditions with the tree, if we conditionally approve this, do you send them a packet on recommended trees? How does that process work? Does the property owner understand these facts?
Chair Fett, Commissioner Chang, typically what we'll do right around permit issuance is to consult with them to find out what their plans are for replacement, just to make sure it satisfies the condition. I think there's some resources online, and we're always happy to provide resources to an applicant or property owner. But we also try not to limit it too much, because there's you have so much flexibility in what you can choose and what you can grow here that I think our professional opinion is a list can be very limiting. So we don't have hard resources, but we're happy to direct them towards things. And we try to make sure that the tree is going to satisfy the condition. And the reality is the smallest of trees probably can get to 30 feet at maturity.
Thank you.
Okay, I don't have any other requests to speak. Is there anybody online for this tree?
No, Chair Fett, there's no one online.
Okay. All right, well, if there aren't any other questions or comments, is anyone prepared to make a motion? Okay, Vice Chair McGill?
Okay, I will make a motion that we conditionally approve the removal of the Italian stone pine at 504 Owen Road, with the condition being that a canopy tree is planted that can achieve 30 feet at maturity, and the finding is that the principles of good forest management will be best served by the proposed removal.
I'll second it.
Okay, may we have a vote, please? Okay, that's approved.
Chair Feck and Commissioners, the next item for review is a request to remove 2 trees from within the front setback of the property at 535 Arroyo Avenue. Those trees are a cook pine and Monterey cypress. The applicant listed a couple different reasons on the application for removal. The cook pine has significantly disrupted the curb and gutter. This is different than a lot of, like, say, when we view a street tree issue. So if a private tree damages essentially public infrastructure like the curb and gutter, that responsibility would be on the property owner to fix that. Much different than if a street tree displaces a curb and gutter, where we work, with streets and figure out how we can make repairs and preserve trees and do those things. So there's a little different situation. I wanted to point that out. And then safety concerns with the Monterey cypress. It's very close to the property, and it's a pretty significant tree for the lot, and they expressed concerns with either limb or tree failure associated with that specific tree. The committee reviewed the application, looked at both trees on site. The curb disruption was pretty significant. It would probably require pretty significant root pruning if and when it's repaired. The tree has been improperly pruned multiple times throughout its life. The applicants are new owners, so we don't know who did the work, but this is a pretty sensitive view shed area, so chances are it was probably pruned to restrict its height over time, and it's been left. While it's healthy, it has really poor structure, and it has proliferation of several stems at the top, and as those grow, those are prone to failure. And it's a species that doesn't lend itself well to like restructuring and trying to restore a canopy, because it grows very similar to a pine. That's why it's called a cook pine, even though it's not a true pine. The Monterey cypress, the committee commented, is a pretty spectacular specimen. It does appear to be quite healthy. It's been well maintained over the years as well. There was consensus and support for the removal of the cook pine on the property, I think both due to the poor overall structure, the difficulty in long-term maintenance, and to a lesser extent, the curb and gutter disruption. The Monterey pine was seen of pretty significant value. The committee commented that in order to support the removal of a tree that appeared to be in pretty good health and well maintained, that there needed to be a little bit more evidence to support its removal, suggesting that it would be helpful if a detailed arborist report was provided that spoke more to maybe if there was real root-related issues or structural concerns that weren't visible as part of like our on-site inspection. After review, they made a recommendation to approve the removal of the cook pine on the condition that a new tree be planted that can achieve 20 feet in height at maturity. The applicant did express an interest in planting a new tree on the property, and then denying the Monterey cypress, but that was a denial without prejudice that would allow the applicant to come back at any time without paying any additional application fees to essentially provide information that provided more evidence that supported the removal of the Monterey cypress. And then the finding was that the principles of good forest management would support the removal of the cook pine.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission? Commissioner Aldana.
Yes, as far as the cypress tree, it looks like it's getting hacked due to the electrical lines. Is that correct?
And Chair Fett, Commissioner Aldana, there's definitely, you can see in the photograph, there's overhead utility lines.
Right.
I would consider that pretty minimal compared to what we see in other parts of town. But they're certainly trimming it on that side of the tree to provide minimum required distances for the electrical utility.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I have a speaker slip. John Stockton, if you'd like to come forward, please. You'll have 2 minutes. There's a timer right in front of you.
Okay.
And then she'll go ahead and start it when you're ready.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for giving me the chance to speak. My name's John Stockton. My wife and I are very fortunate to have just purchased our first home, so we're very excited about that. Like a lot of homes with character, this one is older, not as well maintained as it might have been. So our goal is to try to make sure that it's safe for ourselves, for our neighbors, and for our son, who's due in November. So the tree that's in consideration, as mentioned, is that Monterey cypress to the right. It stands about 3 feet from the house and specifically from the room that's going to be our son's nursery. So first and foremost, we're concerned just about the safety of the tree. And some of our neighbors that we've met have expressed some similar concerns. We've seen kind of firsthand the damage that extreme weather events can do, and I know in Santa Barbara we've seen a lot of those as well recently. My wife's parents' house in 2015 had a beautiful, well-maintained, healthy tree next door that fell and landed, kind of damaging their property. It actually split the ADU in half of the house next door and landed on the railroad track. So there's kind of a lot of damage from that time. Fortunately, no one was injured, but just the overall amount of damage, legal, insurance claims, everything was really a huge burden. So we're concerned, number one, just about the safety, but also about the financial and legal responsibility of having such a large tree close to our home. And we feel that, as homeowners, we're obviously responsible for anything that happens to it. So that's something that we want to try to avoid. And then lastly, we're just concerned about whatever damage is already happening from the tree. From our home inspection report, when we bought the house over the past couple of months, the inspector noted that there is, quote, extensive plant growth and rooting, and overgrowth was noted. Recommend removing this growth and rooting to prevent possible damage to main drain line to home. End quote. So we had a plumber inspect that a little further, and they found that the home, from the home into the street, the line is original clay pipe in fair condition with some roots already present in it, which just seemed to suggest to me that there's already sort of root involvement in the plumbing to the house, so we're worried about that as well. And it seems like with time, that's just going to be more and more of a concern as well. So I know my time is up. Just wanted to express kind of all those concerns.
Okay, well, we appreciate you being here, so thank you very much. Any questions or comments after that? Vice Chair McGill.
Yeah, thank you very much. A couple of questions. In terms of this species of tree, the Monterey cypress, and potential for limb failure, could you comment on kind of the tendency for limb failure from the Monterey cypresses? Any thoughts on having one this close to the house? And then I would say maybe clay pipes and tree roots in general don't play well together. So maybe some comments about kind of just general observations on clay pipes in Santa Barbara and tree roots, and really what the general path forward there is.
Chair Fett, Commissioner McGill, I think when you look at Monterey cypress, it's definitely not immune to limb failure. I think a lot of limb failure is associated with poor maintenance practices. We have a tendency to kind of open them up because it looks really nice, and then they start to fall apart. Limb failure on a cypress is usually slow, and oftentimes there's not full detachment, so you'll see limbs break and they hang. It's all directly related to a combination of poor taper of the limb and then overextension. So you get a lot of weight on the limb as it continues to grow. So rather than opening up the interior, the preventative maintenance strategies to control the end weight, so you reduce that overextension or the length of the limbs, that reduces sort of the loading and the cantilever effect and has a pretty significant impact and reduction on limb failure within a cypress. Cypress is all trees can fall over. Like tree failure is also something that we see with cypress too. I think that the species failure pattern is, it's somewhat common for cypress to fall over, but that usually is associated with some type of root injury. I think that that's part of the committee's comments about seeing if there's more information in regards to the overall health and stability of the tree. And then in terms of the clay tile and Orangeburg and all of those are perfect habitat for or it's the perfect environment for root growth. So you get fibrous roots in there. It's high oxygen water, which is what tree roots want, so they proliferate and lead to problems. Most of the time, it doesn't require tree removal, and it's arguable which tree or what, all of them, or which flavor of tree is actually in the Orangeburg line. In the case of street trees, as we've talked about extensively, it's typically never a criteria for supporting removal because of options to allow for repair do not typically require tree removal.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Aldana, did you have a question?
Yes. As far as Monterey Cypress, it was denied, but without prejudice. And so then how much more information do you want from the property owners?
Chair Fett, Commissioner O'Donnell, I think that when the committee makes that recommendation of an applicant, it's to provide actual substantive objective evidence that speaks to like a true safety issue, right? Because you could say the tree's dangerous, and I don't mean this tree, just hypothetically, somebody's like, that tree's dangerous, right? That doesn't mean the tree's necessarily dangerous. Now, if somebody provided an arborist report that said that the tree has like Ganoderma root rot and proved that, then that's substantial evidence that would support a tree's removal. So I think that it's just really objective information that supports it. And I think that that's something that's always taken into consideration when you have what appears to be a relatively healthy, really significantly large tree that's being proposed for removal. Just essentially making sure that there's rationale to support its removal.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Vice Chair McGill.
I didn't want to hog the mic. So listening to all of this, I want to talk a little bit about why I'm thinking what I'm thinking, and I'm preparing to make a motion that supports the recommendation. My rationale for that is, I get the concerns, trees close to houses and clay pipe, the whole, I get all of that, having been in that world. But listening to everything, including the testimony, this is kind of a new situation, and maybe there's a lot of unknowns. You have the building inspector report for buying the house, but it sounds like potentially there's maintenance that can be done, there's pruning that can be done, there's ways to mitigate some of the concerns potentially, and maybe more information to be gathered in terms of what, if any, true safety risks there are. So I'm inclined to support the recommendation without prejudice, just to allow time for the objective evidence, to allow time for the homeowners to live with the tree and understand the tree and understand what the issues are and aren't, and what mitigations can and cannot happen before making a final determination. So that's my thinking, and with that, I'm going to make a motion to support the recommendation to remove the cook pine and deny the application to remove the Monterey cypress without prejudice, to allow the applicants to bring back more information, on the finding being that the principles of good forest management will be best served by the proposed removal.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, may we have a vote, please? Okay, so it was partially approved, and then Mr. Slack and his team can help you guys with next steps. Thank you. And you do have the right to appeal if you want to as well. Thank you.
Chair Feck and Commissioners, the next Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is the request to remove a deodar cedar that's located within the front setback of the property at 1403 Portezuelo Avenue. The applicant requested removal of the tree primarily due to like fire concerns. The tree's relatively close to the corner of the property. There's limbs that do extend out over the roof. The applicant was present at the meeting and expressed those concerns to the committee and was also present on site. The committee evaluated the tree. It was in great health, really well maintained. The whole yard was just pure mulch, so it was kind of like the perfect environment for super healthy trees. And it was just a really great deodar cedar. It was pretty much the way the committee felt. The homeowner had not had any insurance issues or concerns with fire. Despite the concerns with fire, they still had active insurance. So it wasn't one of these issues where we're looking at somebody not being able to insure due to a tree being close to the structure, which continues to evolve. There exist a lot of opportunities from the committee making comments about maintenance. You could shorten limbs or remove limbs that could really help to alleviate a lot of those concerns. And then just to kind of put the applicant at ease that, you know, a living healthy tree, even if it is coniferous, is very difficult to ignite. So there would probably have to be a pretty significant event before that tree by itself would actually be a true fire-related issue. After review, the committee made a recommendation to deny the request for removal of the deodar cedar at 1403 Portiswell Avenue.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay, Vice Chair McGill.
Yeah, I mean, so I think it's important that they have not actually had the notice yet on limb removal. Kind of a half comment, half question, and then a true comment. Looking at the tree, which, since you know where I live, you know that I see that tree a lot. You know, it looks like you could prune that back so that you actually backed it off of the roof line pretty significantly without it looking weird. I mean, if that was my sense of, that's been my sense looking at it. But the insurance, what I really wanted to comment on is this insurance thing and the street and the committee. My observations with several people now is the reality that trees don't combust, healthy trees don't combust readily, and what the insurance companies are doing is not necessarily the same thing. And I don't know how you manage this as part of the process, but when these notices come, there's generally not a lot of time to do anything about it. Like generally not enough time to do anything about it, in all honesty. But so somewhere down the road, this insurance versus tree conversation needs to happen, I think, within the street tree committee as well, because it is becoming a growing problem in terms of people being asked to do some pretty draconian things around their property, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Commissioner Aldana.
Yes, as far as it, I mean, it's not in a fire zone, is it? You know, high risk.
Chair Feck, Commissioner Aldana, and Commissioner McGill would know. I think it is technically within a high fire hazard zone, but that really doesn't have any impact on like the commission's direct decision on an individual tree.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any speaker slips, but is there anybody online that wishes to speak on this tree?
There is no one online.
Okay, thank you. Well, if there aren't any more questions, anybody would like to make a motion on this one? Commissioner Chang.
Yeah, I'll move to follow the recommendation and deny the setback tree removal request.
I'll second that.
Okay, may we have a vote, please? Okay, thank you.
Chair Feck and Commissioners, the next Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is a request to remove a American sweet gum. This was located within the front setback of the property at 1616 Hillside Road. There were multiple reasons listed on the application. The biggest one just being difficulty utilizing the front yard due to surface rooting and the notoriously fun, spiky fruit that the sweet gum produces, and some reference to limb failure and just general issues with roots. The committee looked at the tree, noted it was in great health, a particularly nice specimen of American sweet gum, sympathized with the challenges that the impact that the tree had on the front yard. The property's on a very nice little cul-de-sac, so they do have lots of other recreational like space, even though this tree does take up a lot of the front yard. And after review, there was just general consensus amongst the committee that it was a significant tree in great health, really well maintained, contributing a lot to the property and the street, and the committee recommended denial of the sweet gum at 1616 Hillside Road.
Okay, thank you. Any questions, comments about this one? Nope. Is there anybody online?
There is no one online.
No one online. Okay. All right. Well, silence. Anybody like to make a motion if there's no questions?
I'll make the motion to
Okay.
concur with the street tree committee to deny the removal.
Okay, I'll second that. May we have a vote, please? All righty.
And Chair Feck and Commissioners, the next item for review is the request to remove 2 Monterey pines located within the front setback. It's on the side of the property at 2025 Red Rose Way. The applicant listed sewer lateral issues as well as potential damage to the property. The committee reviewed the trees, noted they were in pretty good health for Monterey pines. It's increasingly difficult to find a living Monterey pine around here, and these were in pretty good shape overall. Some reduction pruning has occurred. We don't really have the historical background as to why. That could have been some dieback that was removed. We're just simply not sure. The applicant, despite having concerns with structural damage, didn't provide any evidence. There was no pictures of roots towards the foundation or excavation near the foundation. The committee determined that due to the lack of evidence and the reasonable health of the trees, that there was no support for the removal at this time, and made a recommendation to deny the request for the removal of the 2 Monterey pine trees at 2025 Red Rose Way.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments on this one? Commissioner Chang? No? Okay. Vice Chair McGill?
Yeah, 2 questions. So is there any reason why this one would not be without prejudice and the previous Monterey pine was without prejudice when really the issues are the same, lack of evidence being provided? Was there any different conversation that led to those differing recommendations? And then the other kind of more tree-ish related question I have is it looks like the trees have been topped at some point. I mean, they just look kind of weird. Does that, have they indeed been topped, and does that make a difference in terms of their health and longevity?
Chair Feck and Commissioner McGill, I think it's certainly feasible that these may have been pruned to improve someone's view. We don't, we just don't know what the rationale was for the work. Didn't engage the applicant about it either. I don't think that, really overall, especially coming off of 2 really wet winters, the trees appear to be in pretty good health. I think anytime you do big cuts on a tree, it can be stressful. But I think, again, overall, predominantly these trees seem to be in generally good health. And then it's a good question in regards to the differences, but I think when you look at the size and the scale of the Monterey cypress at the Arroyo property versus the size and scale of these Monterey pines adjacent to what is essentially a very large, sort of almost like multi-unit apartment complex. There's a lot of differences, both in the structural composition of the building here at Red Rose Way versus the small older home, on Arroyo. And then I think, again, it just is in direct relation to the scale of the cypress versus the pines. But the commission could certainly, concur or make a recommendation to deny without prejudice for the applicant at Red Rose as well.
Commissioner Chang?
So you mentioned that, repairs to sewer lateral issues rarely necessitate the need for tree removal, and there's no actual information that they're causing structural damage. Can you just talk about what kind of evidence they'd need to bring? What is the kind of hurdle before you consider changing the recommendation?
Chair Feck, Commissioner Chang, I think with sewer laterals, while there's a lot of latitude in decision-making from the commission, it's historically been almost a no-go due to the fact that most of the time there's options for repair. There's always those unique ones. Say, for example, the tree was over top of the line, smashing it, and it was destroyed to the point where you couldn't slip line it or burst it out or something like that, and that would certainly necessitate removal. And then in terms of structural damage, that's a tricky one, but it's similar to the concerns with safety. It's like, what is there that really speaks to that? Are there cracks? I think we'll see an application next month where the contractor for the property went to extensive limits to excavate and show these very large diameter surface roots that are moving right towards where they were trying to do some construction. It's a different situation, but if you can show that you have, I think even if there were large diameter roots that were moving towards a structure, that would speak to some general concern as a private tree owner and owning a property that might elevate the situation to the point where it makes sense to remove the tree. But without showing that, it becomes very difficult and sort of a slippery slope to start approving removals without any kind of evidence. And there are trees that cause damage, and that's a reality. And then there's other times where trees are remarkably well behaved in tight spaces too.
Thank you.
All right. I don't have any speaker slips, but is there anybody online?
There is no one online.
Okay. Any other questions or comments about this one?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion.
Yep. Commissioner Aldana?
Yeah, I'd like to make the motion to agree with the street tree committee and deny the removal, but I would like to add without prejudice, to give them a chance to find their issues, findings.
I'll second that.
Okay.
All right. Any discussion? Can we have a vote, please? All right. Last one.
Chair Feck and Commissioners, the last Street Tree Advisory Committee recommendation for review is a request to remove a deodar cedar. This is located within the front setback of the property at 3091 Calle Rosales. There was a few different reasons listed on the application. A lot of it revolved around safety, stating the tree had lost limbs previously. This tree also is pretty close to the structure, the corner of the home there. The applicant expressed an interest in just moving away from the tree. They've done significant landscape improvements, and it's definitely a different aesthetic than the deodar cedar. They had expressed an interest in planting a tree aloe in place of this cedar tree. The committee looked at the tree, noted it was in generally good health. There was some evidence of limb failure. The canopy's a little funky, probably as a result of some past pruning practices directly related to limb failure. This tree, similar to kind of the conversation that we talked about with the cypress, is kind of long, overextended, so I think it would be beneficial if retained to shorten the length of some of those limbs to reduce that overextension. And those were also comments that were made from committee members on site. There was general consensus that the tree was in good health despite the reference to limb failures. It was a pretty significant tree to the street and also the property. And after review, they made a recommendation to deny the removal of the deodar cedar at 3091 Calle Rosales.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on this tree? Commissioner Chang.
So there was a comment that normal routine maintenance could alleviate most of the issues. If we deny the removal, is the expectation that the maintenance is on the city or the property owner?
Chair Fett, Commissioner Chang, a setback tree is always privately owned, and the property owner is solely responsible for maintenance. So by making that comment, it doesn't mean that the property owner has to maintain the tree, but it was just a comment.
Okay, you're just saying that it's like a skill issue on their part.
Chair Fett, Commissioner Chang, I think that, yeah, when you look at the tree on site, and definitely the arborist on the committee, it's just, they can't help but provide, sort of good feedback. And I think that that's sound advice in terms of just managing that overextension, and that would alleviate a lot of the problems with the tree. Because it's just bad practice to strip the tree out. And it's just been something that we've done as part of the industry for decades now. And it's changing, but it looks much nicer to be like thin and open, but all it does is encourage lengthening of limbs, and that's what leads to failure. So that elevating the maintenance and reducing some of that overextension would just help the tree overall.
Got it, and that's from this point onwards, it's still salvageable as assuming that's applied. Despite,
Correct.
Okay, prior, okay.
Vice Chair McGill.
Stripping the tree out, that's a new one for me. So I noticed a lot of fresh cuts, or relatively fresh cuts, in the lower part of the tree, and then it looked again like it had been topped. Are these, do you know, were these due to limb failures, or were they proactive prunings?
And Chair Fett, Commissioner McGill, I think some of the work was definitely related to limb failures. We've engaged with private arborists about this tree multiple times over the years, inquiring about removal. I don't know the history of like the top vertical stem. We didn't engage the applicant about that. We could go back and look at Google Street View. I assume that it was probably part of the failure that the applicant referenced, and then whoever did the work just made a clean cut up there. But it's speculation.
Yeah. And then do these trees fill back out again once they've been thinned out like this?
Chair Fett, Commissioner McGill, they do not. Yeah, it's the cedars and then the cypress too. They don't have like good growth response, we call it. So when that's done, it becomes very difficult to encourage like new growth, like on the interior of the canopy.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking these questions is I'm kind of struggling with this one because it's so close to the house, and it's been, to use Commissioner Aldana's word, it's been so hacked that, it's kind of like, ugh. What do you do? I mean, that's what I'm struggling with.
Okay, Commissioner Chang.
Yeah, that's kind of, why I was asking about the opinion on routine maintenance. But, I guess I have some more conviction in the committee in their ability to assess it than my personal one.
Okay. I don't have any speaker slips, but is there anybody online for this tree?
There is no one online.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Anyone prepared to make a motion? Oh, Commissioner Chang.
So I guess this is another question. If this tree does become a problem, would they be able to bring it back in front of us?
And Chair Fett, Commissioner Chang, yeah, absolutely. You could apply as many times as you wanted. Essentially, there's really no period of time that would even restrict you from reapplying. So, I think in the case of sort of proactive, responsible decision-making, if something were to happen and compromise the tree on some level, we would typically be reached out to directly by the arborist, and it would likely satisfy for like a removal exemption, so it wouldn't even go through review again.
Okay, thanks. I'll move to follow the recommendation of the committee and deny the removal of the tree.
Okay, I'll second that. Any discussion?
Yes. Can we add without prejudice on that? Just to give them a chance to
Yeah, can I amend that?
go round two.
Yes, do you want to amend?
Yeah, I'll amend it. So that's actually why I asked the question if they can bring it back. I assume that without prejudice is they can bring it back for the same reasons, but the question is more around, if something else happens to the tree, they can bring it back if like the conditions materially change.
Can I push
But I don't
back
mind
on
amending it.
Vice Chair Miguel.
So I'm going to push back on that, sorry. My understanding of without prejudice is that that's something if basically we might have missed something and there's evidence that could be brought that was, we say there's structural damage, but we didn't show you there's structural damage. Now we're saying there's structural damage. Now we're showing you that there's structural damage. Is what without prejudice is for, as opposed to this is if the situation changes. So it feels to me, and I'm not going to die in a ditch over this one, but it feels to me this would be more a case of an appeal, which has gotten kind of expensive, so I understand why people might not want to do that. But it doesn't feel like the right application for without prejudice in this instance, because we're not saying that there might be more evidence out there that we missed. We're saying we do or don't agree with the applicant's assessment.
Is that correct, the right way to think about it?
Chair Feck and Commissioners, I think essentially yes. And to simplify it, historically when that's been done, when a denial without prejudice has been issued, all fees are waived and we just bring it back and we re-review it. Whereas if it's just a denial, as Commissioner McGill pointed out, it's kind of under the decision that all facts have been evaluated and that if somebody wanted to, they could reapply, but they would have to pay the application processing fee and kind of reinitiate the whole process again. Whereas I think when a denial without prejudice is made, there's usually an expectation that we'll see the applicant back at some time in the relative near future. And then they wouldn't have to pay any of those fees, providing some of that additional information that was requested.
Okay, got it.
One more question.
Yeah, Commissioner Aldana.
How many times has this property owner came to the commission? Or how many times have they applied?
Chair Feck and Commissioner Aldana, I believe this is the first time that we've received an application. We'll oftentimes have dialogue with property owners about trees, but it doesn't materialize in like an actual review. So I think we've had conversations with this property owner previously, but I believe this is the first time it's been reviewed, to my knowledge.
Okay, thank you. Then with that being said, do we want to stick with the first motion?
Sure.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. May I have a vote, please? All right, that was the last tree. Thank you, Mr. Slack. Moving on to administrative and staff reports. We have a director report for information. It was attached. I will hand it over to Ms. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Chair Feck and Commissioners. We have 5 items to share with you today. The first is that we recently held another trail maintenance day. This was on June 8th. We host these events in partnership with other community organizations, including local nonprofit trail groups and the U.S. Forest Service. This event was held on the San Ysidro Trail. The San Ysidro Trail was extensively damaged during the storms in January 2023 and was closed for about a year and a half before it was able to reopen. So this trail had not had any trail maintenance days on it for quite a while, which is how we arrived at this one. We had 36 volunteers come and join us, and we were able to repair and improve about 3/4 of a mile of the trail. We will have more trail maintenance events coming up, but I believe we take a couple of months off during the summer, and so the next one should be in September. I also wanted to share the Junior Lifeguard Fiesta competition and just say our junior guard program is back up and running. We're in week 2. It is one of our summer camps, but it really is kind of more than a summer camp. It truly is a way to prepare to become a lifeguard if a child would like to move in that direction, but it's also an opportunity to learn water and ocean safety skills and really get very fit out on the beach, on East Beach during the summer. So one of the things that makes this program unique among summer camps is that it's also similar to a sports team, and we host a competition. There are several other competitions throughout the state where junior guard programs from all over, as far north as Santa Cruz, as far south as Newport Beach, come together to participate in a variety of challenges. And there are awards. It's quite a lot of fun for participants, and it's fun to watch. So the Fiesta competition will be held on Friday, July 19th, out in front of the Cabrillo Pavilion on East Beach, and any community member is welcome to come and see what's going on. We are also excited to celebrate the 4th of July next week, so Independence Day. The department, together with the Waterfront Department, coordinates the city's free events, which include live dance and music performances, other family-friendly activities, and concludes with a 20-minute fireworks presentation, which is hosted off of West Beach. So we also encourage people to come out on July 5th and help clean up after the festivities. So the city is partnering with Santa Barbara Channel Keeper on July 5th in the morning to help clean up. Next, I'd like to share that we are in the 100th year of the Children's Fiesta Parade, which is an event that our department hosts on Saturday, the Saturday after the main Fiesta Parade. So this year it'll be on August 3rd. The parade starts at 10 a.m. at Garden Street and Cabrillo, on the Cabrillo Boulevard in the waterfront. So this is really a favorite event for many families in the community. It's free to participate, and it's free to come and watch. We're still taking entries, so if anyone is interested, you can go onto the website and apply to be a participant in the parade. Not only is it fun, but you also will get free ice cream, courtesy of Marburg Industries. And finally, I'd like to share a little bit about Semana Nautica, which is a sports festival that the city has been partnering with a nonprofit called Semana Nautica to host since 1933. So this is an event. This is essentially a more than a month-long event where many different types of activities that are occurring in the waterfront come together to kind of showcase athleticism and summer sports. If you check out the website, you can see all of the different events that are occurring. They include things that are out on the water as well as on land, so volleyball competitions, running events, swimming, paddling, a regatta. It's a unique and kind of special event that the city hosts, and I would recommend, as I said, checking out the website for all the details on specific events. And with that, I conclude the director's report.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on the director's report? No? Okay, cool. I'm excited, yeah. Summer is always really fun, 4th of July too. And then the next item we have is an asset inventory presentation.
Yes. Chair Feck and Commissioners, we have Todd Newell, Parks Supervisor, here with 2 asset interns who Todd's going to introduce in just a minute. But I will share that the department for many years has been very eager to come up with a better way of managing the thousands and thousands of park assets or amenities that we have across our 60 parks and facilities. So we, for a long time, have relied on pen and paper or things as advanced as Excel spreadsheets, but we have not had anything that was map-based or a little bit more high-tech to track benches, play equipment, light fixtures, irrigation lines, and everything you can think of that might be in a park. So this last year, we were able to kick off a process to really catalog all of those amenities, and we are probably 2/3 of the way through this process. So the amenities are now cataloged, but the next step is to move them into the city's asset inventory system, which is called Cartograph. And we will learn more about exactly how that program is used once we get started with it. IT is helping us, and it's a system that's already extensively used by some other departments, including Public Works. But for now, we have everything cataloged, and I think Todd will explain what he and the interns have been doing and share some of the findings that we've had as we are in the middle of this process.
Good evening, Chair Feck and the rest of the commissioners. Thank you for having us here this evening. It's our honor to present you with the project that we have been working on for the past about 8 months or so. Very extensive project going through each and every one of our parks out here and all of our locations that are just not even parks, and going through many of our assets and categorizing them, collecting all the data on them. And our main purpose is to actually assess all the conditions, get them into a comprehensive database that we can use going forward in the future, but also for cost analysis and also for a comprehensive work order system that can help us produce work orders in the future and track all of the changes that we have made to these assets. Plus, it's also a platform that we can integrate into SB Connect eventually, and we can have the rest of the public help us with pinpointing items we need to work on out here. But with this, I have the 2 interns with us, John Stonecipher and Sam Carrillo Garcia, and they've done the majority of the workload being in the field with their iPads to take care of collecting all the data points and assessing all of the information. And it's been a long, arduous project, but we're sure happy and proud about it. But they now have a little presentation for all of you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Before I give a background on our project, I would like to give a brief background on GIS. I assume most of you, if not all of you, aren't familiar with GIS. GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems, Studies and Sciences. The systems involve software and hardware. The science involves concepts and theories. And studies involve how people interact with these different systems. And to summarize our project, there are over 60 parks and facilities that are maintained by the Department of Parks and Recreation. And using the city's GIS system, we've been able to develop a comprehensive map-based system where you can interact with the map and see, we can categorize and collect information on every amenity or asset out in the field. And in total, we collected over 9,100 assets. And much of the work involved gathering, verifying, inputting, editing, and maintaining data, which also involves updating data over time because data is subject to change. And within every point in the assets, there's been images to help establish a record of the asset within a specific time frame. And every point is then inputted into GIS layers. And every individual asset is geographically referenced with data which involves a coordinate, so you know the approximate location of each asset. And we did this by using mobile tools, which involved the application of field maps that we've used via iPads. And using aerial imagery in the office, we've been able to rectify any errors that we may have encountered out in the field. And overall, we've been able to produce accurate maps and representations of data for the department's use, but also for the public to be able to view this over time. And we've surveyed every item out in the field, and we've assessed for different attributes that involve type of asset, material, the lifespan, and the condition, to briefly explain. And an overall collection of every single asset we've collected. This is a brief summary of everything. We have signs, waste receptacles, buildings and structures, benches and tables, electrical facilities, bike racks, water facilities, barbecue facilities, exercise equipment, trails, stairs, and handrails, as well as walls and other special areas. And every single one of these categories are data layers which have other data embedded within them. So for example, signs have different kinds of categories within them. So it can involve parking signs, regulatory signs, and park hours. Within also considering irrigation signs, any kind of sign that you can find out in a park or a parking lot or beach or a trail. And so here are some examples of what we've done. As you can see, we have images of every single asset out in the field. And this is what the web map looks like, and it is interactive, so you can actually be on the website, click on any single point or polygon, and it'll list information for every single point. And to be more specific on every layer, we've categorized different types. So for example, for trash cans, we came up with a handful of categories. So we've done industrial trash cans, premier, beachscape, chase pump style trash cans, historical trash cans, and other trash cans that we may find. And then we also considered what was used for waste and what was used for recycling. So we know we have numbers of the different recycling bins and waste bins out in the field.
Thank you, Sam. Good afternoon, Chair Feck and Commissioners. I'm John. I'll be taking the second half of the PowerPoint here. Just building on what she said, just some more of the things that we collected out in the field and brought into the database. As you can see, we collected some of the hiking trails. An example here, we have Parma Park. We took the signs out there and we've plotted it all accurately on the map. We took paved walking trails from around the parks, which are made up of different materials, concrete, dirt, etc. But we now have a comprehensive map of all those trails. So if they ever need to be fixed or worked on in the future, that will be a lot easier to do. We took other examples here include garden plots on Yananali Gardens. So now we have a map and accurate collection of all the garden beds. So if anybody is curious to see where their garden plot might lie, if they want to take up gardening, they can use this resource hopefully in the future and kind of see where they might be located in the parks and gardens here. And as you can see, we also collected rancheria. So those were among the places we went. We also collected some planter beds just to show some more examples of the different assets and layers out there. Alice Keck, as you can see, has several different planter beds. And then Chase Palm parking lot has lots of different islands in planters. Just moving forward, it'll just be a lot easier for staff to be able to see what they have out there, what maybe they want to do differently or fix. So just helpful things to use in the future. Next slide. Here's just one more example of looking at a map and a point up in the Mission Historical Park near the Rose Garden. On the left side, you can just see a little window of the attribute data that comes along with the point. So when a point or asset is collected or clicked on, you can see the data that comes along with it, and over time that can be edited, updated, maintained. So it's just all part of the system going forward. And this is just an example of some of the tables that you can pull up and use for analysis. Here we have some seating and tables. Another example of just trash cans and all the different attributes that are go along with that. And just as we've kind of discussed, just more of the uses going forward. You can analyze this data. You can track the locations, conditions for inventory management. You can schedule preventative maintenance, prioritize repairs, share information with other departments, and develop maintenance and replacement programs. And hopefully the public will be able to interact with it at some point as well. So that is our findings.
Okay, awesome. This is cool. I like it. Any questions? Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton.
Yes, thank you for the work. Did you categorize how many park benches, for example, were ADA accessible?
Thank you. What was the question?
Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton, I believe your question was how did we categorize how many of our park benches are ADA accessible?
Or anything else? Did you can you sort them by if they're ADA compliant or not?
Yes, Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton. Yes, we actually have a layer in here that we have ADA items, and that we can actually go through all of them. Compliancy, for that we can take a look at as well. We didn't really put compliance as a whole, but that is an option that we can look at in the future as we go through all of our assets.
Great, thank you. And can any member of the public get the data, or is it just in total?
Commissioner Lesnar-Buxton and Parks and Rec commissioners, right now the data is internal only, as we're still in the process of getting it fully integrated into the system, into the city's maps system, as well as I mentioned, Cartograph, which is a asset management software. So we're probably still several months away from where we'd be able to share this externally.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Chang.
I've got two questions. What's the annual cost of the GIS license?
Commissioner Chang, Chair Feck and Commissioners, The cost of the GIS license is something that's captured citywide in the IT department, and I don't have that information.
That's okay. And so in terms of, working this into our workflows, it's very cool, by the way. It reminds me of those like SimCity or like Roller Coaster Tycoon video games. When you're adding in new features and further developments, who's responsible for doing that?
And Chair Feck and Commissioners, yes, that's actually going to be on us as parks as a whole, where with the use of our interns and/or going forward, any other positions, myself included, we will be taking care of those assets and other points that we add in as we add them into our system.
Got it. Thank you.
Vice Chair McGill.
So, this is not my actual question, but, so actually somebody went out and physically touched all the park benches and the irrigation breaker boxes and the,
Yes, Chair Feck and Commissioners, yes, it was ultimately Sam and John that did most of the work.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's an impressive amount of things to count in a relatively short period of time. And I kind of building on that, keeping that live and current, I could see will be a challenge. There's it's only as good as it's kept up. I guess, and it's all, in a sense, it's only as good as it's used. It's one thing to have a whole bunch of nice maps. It's another thing to do something with them. So I'd actually like to maybe hear a little bit more of how you see this changing, how you do your work going forward. What will you do differently that you're not doing now, and how will that help the department? And then the other question I would have is, you talk about public access. Is this something that you envision the public being able to access to the point where, say, they could, report a broken something or other by going into this database? And what's the time frame that you see for that? So I'm just really looking for how do you measure that this was really a good idea?
I'll take the first stab at that. So Chair Feck and Commissioners, the first part of the question, how do we see this being used? I'll give you one example. We're currently working very hard and have one of our staff members spending a majority of her time on a project to complete installing all of our updated new modern green park signs, as opposed to the shades of brown park signs that you still see in places. I can see in this photo the backside of one of those. And that project has been much more challenging than it needed to be, because we simply didn't know exactly where all of our park signs were, and didn't have a really easy way to assess where to place the new signs. Ultimately, you can't use a system sitting in an office somewhere to decide exactly where to put a sign in a park, but it certainly would help if anyone involved in that project is able to look at the same imagery at the same time and see where the proposed new signs are. And when signs are being replaced, for that person to be able to go into the system and immediately take the old sign out of the map layer and enter the new sign in the new map layer. So for that project alone, it would make a huge difference. Another example is just thinking about our trash receptacles. You saw exactly how many different kinds. The city actually has an approved trash receptacle list, which is how all of those got named. And then you saw we had 200 and something other garbage cans that don't match the approved list. If we were to say be requested by the city administrator to make sure that we had all in compliance trash receptacles, we would be able to now know with precision where the non-compliant receptacles were and go in and swap those out. It also helps because those have a lifespan, and they also need to be on a cleaning cycle, and being able to identify specifically which receptacles are a certain type and where they are helps us to get those on the right cleaning cycle. It allows us to make assessments as to whether or not we have too many or too few in certain parks quickly, rather than having to ask staff to drive around and make counts. So those are a couple of the ways I think that just managing our assets in a map-based database is going to help us make a lot more of those kinds of informed decisions. The possibility exists as well to, as was mentioned in this presentation, to actually track the work efforts that we make on certain things, which might be helpful in determining with more of an objective measurement whether it's worth continuing, for example, with a particular type of adult fitness equipment. We know anecdotally that some of the adult fitness equipment along Cabrillo Boulevard seems to be constantly breaking and requiring expensive parts that take a long time for us to get. And if we can see a track record that we've been servicing and trying to fix a particular component every 3 months for 2 years, that might help us to decide it's time to get that thing out. So those are some of the ways that I see it being used, and I don't remember the second part.
So I actually have a follow-up to what you just said, but the second part, which I'll do first, but the second part was public access and what the public would actually use it for and how they would go in and notify you of things. But going back to keeping things current, live, and accurate, you made a comment that, somebody could go in and say, I don't know, replace a trash receptacle. I'm making that up, and then they'd go in and edit the map, which, some people are going to be better at that than others. Some people are going to care about that more than others. Have you thought about how you're going to make sure that the edits happen in a timely way, and who actually gets to do it or doesn't get to do it to make sure that it stays as good as it is?
Sure. Chair Feck and Commissioners, that we do have actually a little bit of insight into how to do that, because all of our trees are mapped and are in this system already. And so the urban forestry team that Nathan Slack leads already does do weekly updates to that tree, the tree inventory. They have developed a system where they're keeping a running list. I believe sometimes it's on the iPad, it's often on paper, and there are 2 staff assigned to go in and make sure that all of those changes are entered on a weekly basis into the system. So that is very likely the approach that we'll take with our other park assets. And in terms of the public asset access, similar to what you can find if you go into the city's public map layers right now and look at trees, that's how I see it. So it's not every detail around every tree that we might be able to see. For instance, when Nathan logs into the system, he can see every instance of a time when a city staff person touched that tree in some way or evaluated that tree. That's not something that the public would see, but they can see that there's a city tree in a particular location, and I think we would do the same thing with the other park amenities.
And then they could say, this trash receptacle at, point X is gone or destroyed or something.
Correct. Yes. So Vice Chair McGill, Commissioners, to follow up, the SB Connect app right now is integrated into the Public Works map layer system. So when someone goes in and reports graffiti on a particular, say, bridge around town, that is going directly into their map layer on that particular bridge that they're maintaining. So it's automatically into their system that way.
Commissioner Aldana.
I just wanted to compliment the team for the nice, detailed, organized work. Nice. This is not exactly, I don't know if you can answer this, but will other departments be doing the same?
Chair Feck and Commissioners, yes. As I mentioned, Public Works already uses this system pretty extensively. That includes their streets division, so anything you can think of that's associated with a street or sidewalk or bridge, but that also includes lights, utilities, so all of the water lines are pretty extensively cataloged in this system. Our Sustainability and Resilience System department is completing the process of getting onto this system. The biggest way that they use it is that they oversee the code enforcement program in the city. So, areas with blight and that need abatement, graffiti, garbage left on the street, and so on will all be in this system.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, I know inventory management's a lot of work in this, so great job. And thank you for sharing with us today. All righty, that was the last item, so we can adjourn 5:38 p.m. The next meeting will be July 24th at 4 p.m. And Kathy will be our leader on that one. All right, thank you guys.